continue our discussion on the science to Samadhi. So far we were discussing up to the 8th sutra. The 8th sutra basically gave us the glimpse into what Atma can be, what you are and what you are not, body you are not, mind you are not, and you are the self. And little by little, that's where our progress and the journey should be. And we started with the first sutra saying that life is energy. The 9th sutra now says death is also an energy. Just the way the life as we see around, it's an energy. Every single component of the life that we know is energy. What we speak, what we hear, what we touch, what we smell. Every single process that we do is a combination of thought, action, requires the body, requires the matter, requires the mind, requires the vrittis, vasanas, desires. All that combined is nothing but energy. And somehow we never talk about death. And yet it exists. Death is always there. So death is also part of that big energy cycle. There is no reason to be afraid of death, and there is no reason to run away from death. So death, we have to look at it as a part of the total energy cycle.
But it's a natural, everybody afraid, natural.
Oh, no, they're afraid because they don't know.
They don't know, and also their clinging to the life is so much. Because we are clinging to the life so much, that's why we are afraid of death. If we were not attached to life that much, we won't be afraid of death either. And that will happen only when you realize yourself. When you think you are Lakshman, when you think you are the body, obviously all the requirements for your body, you're going to have interest in preserving it and then working for it and do whatever to acquire, hold, enjoy this and that. Every time little thing happens, we go out and have a glass of drink or something to enjoy.
Yeah.
All those things, we think that life is giving us pleasure. So when the life is the pleasure-giving source, obviously death, which takes all these things away, is going to be painful. But when we realize that there is a bigger pleasure somewhere else, and that's within us, the pleasures of life do not seem to be that attractive.
If you get a Porsche, Honda has no value.
No value, right? So if you
have a Mercedes, you're not going to care for Toyota.
So the higher pleasure is the goal of life, and that can happen only in this life. So first sutra says that life is energy, but 9th sutra says death is also an energy. Life is
death to vinash ho gaya, energy ke sath.
Vinash of what?
Huh?
Vinash of what?
Vinash of body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are you the body?
No.
No.
Yeah.
So why would it matter to you? Right? That's the whole purpose of scientific approach to the
death energy
the
nahi hai,
spiritual.
death vinash hai.
Death is an energy, it's a play of energy. Just the energy creates and makes the babies born. The energy also dissolves the tattva that is there. There is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, right? Brahma creates, Vishnu maintains, and Shiva destroys. But without destruction, life cannot happen, right?
Right.
So, in traditional sense, society always welcomes birth. We celebrate birthdays. We celebrate life. We enjoy life. We call this a pleasure. And the moment we call pleasure, the moment we call birth or birthdays enjoyments, death becomes a miserable thing.
Death becomes closer, no?
Right. So we cling to life and run away from death as much as possible and as far as possible. So death has become kind of like a child of another husband's or man, like somebody is, you're not your own child, but you have to take care of them anyway. So you kind of take care of it, but you never talk about it. You shove it under the rug, right?
Should we celebrate death?
We should.
We should.
Actually, if you start developing a vision how to look at the death properly, then we will celebrate death, definitely. Because that can be a springboard for launching yourself into enlightened phase. Because death is the only thing that brings an end to all the pleasures that you call pleasures. Until death comes, we keep on believing that it will never come to an end. You keep on going, keep on going, keep on going, right? So we cling to life so much, we try to find out the ways to extend the life as much as possible. Google has set up a new company called Calico. Did you know that?
No.
They are experimenting how to extend life, and death should disappear, literally.
Disappear.
So they have made a collaboration with Amgen, which is a
Vaccine company.
vaccine company, and the biologics.
Biological, yeah.
And all that. So they have made partnership, and they are working on to extend the life to the full limit and things like that. So
I read somewhere, if you live forever, it's like having one car for the rest of your life,
right.
right? So it's like you want to have a newer car every
Newer
2,
car,
3 years,
right,
5 years,
right.
10 years, you want a new car.
Exactly.
So it's living forever is a curse.
So someone asked Jesus, when were you born? So the answer Jesus gave was very interesting. He said, before Abraham was, I was. Now Abraham is the first preacher of the Jewish religion. And he happened many years. Jesus was 2,500 years back. Abraham is said to be 5,000, 6,000 years back. Now physically, from the body point of view, it was not possible. But at the same time, what Jesus would say would not be a lie either. So the statement was very profound. So he said that before the Abraham was, I was here. So what he considered himself was always there. But what people look at him as a physical body obviously was not there. Krishna also says in Gita that I taught this imperishable yoga to Vivashwan. Vivashwan means sun. Before the sun was, Krishna was there. And sun taught to Manu, Manu taught to Ikshvaku. And that's how all the parampara started. So the knowledge was originally taught by Krishna to sun. And sun created all the rest of the things that we see around. So, same thing, if you look at it philosophically, all the answers merge. Just the way Jesus said that before Abraham was, I was. Krishna said that I taught this yoga to sun first. Somebody asked Lao Tse, who was a great philosopher of China, that when were you born? So Lao Tse said, as far as I know, I never died. So the question of my birth never arises. And do not really ask anyone else about my birth, because I know more about my birth than anyone else. So a lot of people can be wrong about your birth. So if you really think about it, when we were born, we didn't know that we were born. We were not aware. We did not have understanding. Few years later, somebody had to come and tell you that this and such date you were born. Supposing you create a society and decide that nobody tells anybody about the birth. We don't talk about birth. Would we ever know that we were born? If nobody tells you that you were born, we will feel that we naturally existed. And this is just the evolution in the life that we're going through, stages of life. That's it. So, our knowledge of our own birth comes from other people. The same way, what about death? We have never experienced death that we know. And yet, we see people dying around us. So we start thinking that we are also going to die. So that's an inference. We presume that we're going to die. So birth is told to us by someone else. Death, we are presuming. So whatever in between cannot be truth either.
both are lies which have to be given to us by someone else. We have not experienced it. So the life that we call life in between cannot be life either, because it's surrounded by two lies. But something was there before your birth, something will be there after the birth, could not disappear when you are alive either. So that is something that we should be looking for. Something that is like a substratum, like a blackboard on which the white letters are written up. So Atma, the soul, has been seeing this change of so-called birth, so-called life, so-called death. So we have to rely on others for a lot of information. So instructions, information coming from outside, and people who told you that you were born, they also did not know about their own births either. Somebody else had to tell them, and then somebody else, and somebody else. So we are really living in a myth, in a mythological society basically. Society supports each other that yes, you were born, yes, you're gonna die, this and that and all that. So we are listening to people basically, and then defining that whatever we have based on other people's information. So what is actually life? Is this what we call life? There was a Swami named Ramananda. In 1957, he conducted an experiment where he would die physically.
Okay.
His heart would stop. He conducted the experiment in Calcutta University.
Really?
Yes. His heart stopped, his pulse stopped, his breathing stopped, and then there were a panel of 10 doctors who had to declare him dead. That as far as we know, medically, this person is dead. And for sure, he came back alive. So he said to the panel of doctors that either your certificate about me is wrong, that means I was never dead, and if I was dead, then all the certificates that you haven't given to all the people, they were wrong also. So how could you certify someone dead and he comes back alive? So a lot of our definitions are based on the body, that your heart stops, your breathing stops, your pulse stops, and these bodily functions stop, and we call that death. So the question is, starting of these bodily functions we call birth, and stopping of these bodily functions we call death. And we could define life as the time phase between the two. But life is much bigger than this. Life as we know has to be bigger than this, because life is what we are. We are life. We can know every time we breathe, every time we speak, every time we smell beautiful flowers, look at the sunshine, enjoy the moments of life, the pleasures. All these things is full of life. That is the real life. If we define the birth and the death and whatever is in between as a life, we are missing the point. There is something really bigger than this. And this is the time for us to realize what is life. So there are people who have challenged this notion, and they have realized to the state of realizing that life is a lot bigger than what we know or what we see or whatever people talk to each other about. It's nothing. Compared to that, life is much bigger than that. There is a story of Alexander. When he came to India, his friends, this is reported in the history of the Greece, in the historical books. When he came to India, his friends told him that you're going to bring a lot of jewels and gold and rubies and diamonds and whatnot. Bring one fakir one sannyasi with you also. We heard that India has a lot of those. So he didn't remember the fact, and then on the last day before he was going to leave at the very close border between India and Pakistan, there was a village. Suddenly he remembered that he has to take one sannyasi with him. So he asked the village people, how do we find a sannyasi? We want to take him with us. He says, we do have one, but we have no idea whether it will be possible. He says, so the soldier says, come on, we are the soldiers of Alexander. If we tell the mountains to move, mountains will move. We have that much power. You look at these swords. So the villager says, that's exactly what we are worried about. That in a case like this, your swords may not work. He says, that we have never seen that happening. So say, all right, go ahead, you try. So they went to that fakir. His name has been mentioned as Dandasami. Somehow, maybe he was carrying a stick or something. So a sadhu carrying a Dandi Swami or something like that. So they gave a Greek name to Dandasami. Dandamis actually. Dandamis was the name. So maybe that's what it meant or something like that. That's what the name they gave. So they approached the fakir and they said that you have to come with us. He says, who says so? Well, that is the order of Alexander. He says, well, since I became fakir, I have stopped taking orders. He says, what do you mean? He says, this is Alexander. He said, it does not matter to me. I have stopped taking orders except from the God. So he says, we could kill you. These swords are open swords. He says, you cannot kill me. So they were really surprised. They had never seen anybody defying the orders of the soldiers. And he was not wearing anything. So they went back to Alexander and they told him. So Alexander was really surprised, really curious. He says, let me come. So Alexander came and he said, you have to come with me. First he approached a nice approach. He says, we'll give you anything you want. We'll give you rubies and jewels and diamonds and clothes. And he says, I have no needs. You cannot give me anything because I don't want anything. Once in a while, the beggars have an upper hand. When the beggars refuse to take anything, the rich people cannot give. And that hurts their egos. So now, Alexander was getting frustrated because whatever is offering, he says, no matter what, you have to come. Do you see my sword? I will just behead you. Your head will come off. He says, you can do that. You will see me dying. I also will be seeing myself dying. But since I have taken sannyas, I have known that body is not me. My body that you see physically is not me. I will be watching my head being cut off. You will be seeing the head being cut off, but you will not see me. I am beyond all these things. And for the first time, Alexander had to walk away empty-handed because that Swami could not be taken with him. He did not go with him. So life is much more than we are attached to. Lot of things in life we are attached to. How long they're gonna last? How long they're gonna stay with us? And yet we keep running after this all the time. If we really knew what is life, where is the fun? Where is the happiness on our face? We are always walking around with sad face, tension, stress. There is no smile. There is no joy. Where is the dance in life? There is no happiness in life. Life is joy. So we know that we are doing something wrong. And if we call this life, then all the time that Krishna and Buddha and Mahavir spent looking for life was a waste of time. And if we are smart, intellectually we have analyzed everything, we know everything, that this is what life is, we know everything. In that case, that means Krishna, Buddha, Mahavir, they were all dumb people. Better be dumb than smart then, because they were happy. They had a perpetual bliss. They were in a total samadhi, and they were the happiest people on the face of this earth. When is the last time we had experienced happiness? So our life tells us that we have not found life.